Imagine you are walking down the street, running late for an important meeting. Suddenly, you realize you forgot your phone at home. Frustrated, you rush back, only to find out later that there was a terrible accident on the very road you were supposed to take. At that moment, you wonder, was it just a coincidence? Or did something greater intervene? Have you ever faced a situation where something went completely wrong, only to realize later that it led you to something better? What if that job rejection, that heartbreak, or that missed opportunity wasn't a failure but a redirection? Could it be that everything, both the good and the bad, happens for a reason? Think about the times when life seemed unfair, when you asked yourself, why is this happening to me? Maybe you lost a friend, struggled with financial problems, or faced unexpected setbacks. In those moments, it feels impossible to see the bigger picture. But what if those struggles were not punishments but stepping stones towards something meaningful? Here's a simple example. Imagine a person who gets fired from his job. He feels hopeless, believing that his life is falling apart. But months later, he finds a much better opportunity, one that aligns with his true passion. Had he not lost his job, he would have never taken that path. So, was it really a setback? Or was it life's way of pushing him towards something greater? Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore the deep wisdom of Buddhism and life's hidden lessons. Today, we will uncover the profound idea that everything happens for a reason. We will dive into Buddhist teachings, real-life insights, and powerful perspectives that will help you see life's challenges in a completely new way. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribed. So, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more life-changing wisdom. And don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your experiences and insights. Life often feels unpredictable, but what if there's a pattern behind it all? As we move forward, you'll discover how seemingly random events might be guiding you toward your true path. Let's begin this journey together. The law of cause and effect, understanding karma. Sit with me for a moment, and let us talk about the way life unfolds. Nothing in this world happens without a reason. Every action has a reaction. Every seed planted will someday grow. This is the law of cause and effect. In Buddhism, it is called karma. But karma is not about punishment or reward. It is simply the truth that everything we do, say, or even think creates ripples in the world around us. Imagine a small drop of water falling into a still pond. The moment it touches the surface, it creates ripples that spread outward. These ripples may be small at first, but they travel far beyond what we can see. This is how karma works. The things we do today, whether good or bad, will shape what happens to us tomorrow. A kind word spoken today may come back to us in the form of kindness from someone else. A harsh action done in anger may return as pain in ways we do not expect. This is not magic. It is simply the natural way of life, just like a tree growing from a seed. Think about a farmer who plants rice. He cannot plant weeds and expect a field of golden crops. If he sows good seeds, he will reap a good harvest. If he neglects his field, weeds will take over. Life is no different. What we put into the world, our thoughts, our words, our actions will come back to us in some form. Sometimes, people say, why do bad things happen to good people? But think deeper. A tree does not bear fruit immediately. Some seeds take time to grow. A good person may face suffering, not because of today's actions, but perhaps because of seeds planted long ago. And just as a tree grows in the direction of sunlight, our lives can also change course if we learn and act wisely. Many people misunderstand karma. They think it is about fate or destiny, but that is not true. Karma does not mean we are trapped by our past. It simply means we are responsible for what happens next. Just as a boatman can change direction by adjusting his oars, we can shape our future by changing the way we think and act today. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who lived in a village. He was known for being kind and generous, but his life was full of hardships. One day, a younger man asked him, "You always do good, but life is still difficult for you. Where is your good karma?" The older man smiled and said, "Karma is like a tree. Some trees bear fruit in one season, others take years. I do not act kindly because I expect a reward. I act kindly because that is who I choose to be." And that is the lesson. We do not control when the fruits of our actions will come, but we do control what kind of seeds we plant. If we live with wisdom, patience, and compassion, life will eventually reflect that back to us. Sometimes, we cannot see the connections between our past and present. But just because we do not see the roots of a tree does not mean they are not there. A person who experiences great loss may one day find that their suffering led them to wisdom. A person who faces rejection may later realize that it pushed them towards something better. The universe is always moving, always arranging things in ways we cannot immediately understand. So what should we do? First, we must be mindful. Before we speak, we should ask, will my words bring peace or pain? Before we act, we should ask, will my actions create harmony or suffering? The ripples of our choices travel far, touching places we may never see. Second, we must learn patience. A flower does not bloom the moment it is planted. The sun does not rise all at once, it begins with the soft glow of dawn. If we are doing good, but life is still hard, we must not be discouraged. The results of our actions will come, but in their own time. Third, we must take responsibility. If something in our life is not going well, we must not blame fate, luck, or others. Instead, we should ask, what choices brought me here? And what choices can I make now to change my path? Think of life as a great river. The current is always moving. Sometimes it carries us smoothly, and other times it pushes us into difficult waters. But if we understand the law of cause and effect, we realize that we are not helpless. We may not control the river, but we can learn to navigate it. Many people go through life feeling lost, wondering why things happen the way they do. But when we see the world through the eyes of karma, we begin to understand. Everything is connected. Everything has a cause. Nothing happens by accident. And so, if you are facing difficulties, do not lose hope. The hardships of today are not punishments. They are simply part of the flow of cause and effect. And just as a dark night is followed by dawn, your struggles can lead to something greater if you choose to learn from them. Let this be your guide. Live with awareness. Speak with kindness. Act with wisdom. The ripples you create today will shape the waves of your future. Impermanence, the ever-changing nature of life. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that many people fear but cannot escape: change. Life never stays the same. The seasons shift, the sun rises and sets, people come and go, and what was once new eventually fades. Everything is changing, always moving, never still. In Buddhism, this truth is called impermanence. Nothing in this world is fixed. No matter how much we try to hold on, everything will pass, just like water flowing in a river. Yet, people resist this truth. They want their happiness to last forever. They want their loved ones to stay the same. They want life to remain exactly as they wish it to be. But the more they hold on, the more they suffer. Imagine a person holding a handful of sand. If he tries to squeeze it tightly, the sand slips through his fingers. But if he holds it gently, the sand remains in his palm. Life is the same. When we cling too hard, we lose what we love even faster. But when we accept change, we can appreciate the present without fear. Think about the things you once had but no longer do. The favorite toy from childhood, the friends you lost touch with, the moments that felt so important but have now become distant memories. At the time, it seemed like those things would last forever. But they didn't, did they? And yet, here you are, still moving forward, still living. A wise person does not fear change. Instead, they embrace it. They understand that just as the trees shed their leaves in autumn, we must also learn to let go. It is not a loss. It is simply the way of life. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who lived by a river. He had a beautiful golden cup, which he treasured more than anything. He would polish it every day, admiring how it shone in the sunlight. One day, while he was washing it in the river, it slipped from his hands and was carried away by the current. He was devastated. He searched for it along the riverbanks, but it was gone. A wise old monk saw him crying and asked, "Why are you so sad?" The man replied, "I lost my golden cup. It was precious to me." The monk smiled and said, "Did you not know that the cup was already broken?" The man was confused. "No, it wasn't broken," he said. "It was perfect." The monk shook his head. "Everything in life is already broken. It is only a matter of time before it happens. Your cup was never truly yours. It was only with you for a while. Now, it belongs to the river." The man slowly understood. He realized that nothing truly belongs to us, not even our own bodies. Everything is borrowed, and one day, everything must return to where it came from. We often suffer not because things change, but because we resist change. We try to hold on to the past, to keep things as they are, even when they are slipping away. We cry over lost relationships, forgotten dreams, and the way life used to be. But no matter how much we wish, we cannot stop the river from flowing. Look at nature. The clouds in the sky never stay the same. The waves in the ocean rise and fall. A flower blooms and then withers. But do you see the ocean crying because the waves disappear? Do you see the trees complaining when the leaves fall? No. They accept change as part of life. And so should we. If we understand impermanence, we can begin to see life differently. We stop taking things for granted. We cherish the people around us, knowing they will not be here forever. We appreciate the good moments, instead of worrying about when they will end. And we endure the bad moments, knowing they too will pass. A person who truly understands impermanence is free. They do not fear the future because they know that whatever happens, they will adapt. They do not cling to the past because they know that nothing was ever meant to stay the same. This does not mean we should not love, care, or dream. It simply means that we should love without attachment, care without fear, and dream without desperation. If something is meant to stay, it will. If something is meant to leave, we must let it go with grace. The sun will set today, but it will rise again tomorrow. The pain you feel now will one day become a distant memory. And the things you are afraid to lose were never truly yours to begin with. So do not fear change. Do not fight the flow of life. Instead, learn to move with it. Let life be like a river, ever-changing, always moving, yet always beautiful. The power of perspective, changing how you see the world. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that shapes every moment of your life: perspective. Life is not just about what happens to you. It is about how you see it. The same event can feel like a blessing to one person and a curse to another. The difference is not in what happens, but in how it is perceived. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One is frustrated, honking the horn, checking the time, feeling their anger rise. The other takes a deep breath, turns on calming music, and uses the extra time to reflect. The traffic is the same for both, but their experience is completely different. Why? Because their perspectives are different. Life is full of moments like this. You can see a rainy day as a ruined plan or a chance to slow down and enjoy the sound of raindrops. You can see failure as the end of your journey or as a lesson that prepares you for something better. You can see a difficult person as an obstacle or as a teacher, showing you the power of patience. The great Zen master Linji once said, "When the mind is at peace, the whole world is at peace." This means that what disturbs us is not the outside world but our own minds. A person who always complains will find something to complain about, even in the best situations. A person who always looks for growth will find an opportunity, even in difficult times. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who lost his leg in an accident. He spent months in sorrow, believing his life was ruined. One day, he met a monk and poured out his heart, saying, "I am broken. I will never be the same again." The monk listened quietly and then asked, "What if this was a gift?" The man was confused. "How can losing my leg be a gift?" The monk pointed to a bird sitting on a tree. If that bird loses its nest in a storm, it does not cry forever. It builds again. And if the wind takes its feathers, it does not give up flying. It simply adapts. What if your challenge is not a loss but a chance to grow in a new way? The man thought deeply. Over time, he began to shift his focus. Instead of mourning what he had lost, he started to see what he still had. He trained his body, developed new skills, and eventually became a great teacher, inspiring others to overcome their struggles. His loss had not destroyed him, it had transformed him. This is the power of perspective. Nothing outside of you has the power to make you suffer unless you allow it. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Think of life as a mountain. If you stand at the base and only look at the steep climb ahead, you will feel overwhelmed. But if you start walking, step by step, and take a moment to enjoy the view at every turn, the journey will feel different. The mountain has not changed, you have. Many people spend their lives wishing for a perfect world, free from pain, struggle, or disappointment. But such a world does not exist. What does exist is the ability to see life differently. Instead of wishing for fewer problems, we can develop the strength to face them. Instead of focusing on what is missing, we can appreciate what is present. When you wake up in the morning, you have a choice. Will you see today as another routine, or as a fresh start? Will you focus on what you lack, or on the opportunities in front of you? Will you let small inconveniences ruin your mood, or will you rise above them? A wise person knows that no situation is entirely good or bad. Everything depends on how it is seen. A delay may be a chance to slow down. A rejection may be protection from something that was not right for you. A challenge may be life's way of making you stronger. A person once asked the Buddha, "Why do some people suffer so much while others seem happy, even in hardship?" The Buddha smiled and said, "Two people may be caught in the rain. One curses the storm, while the other dances in it. The rain falls on both, but their experiences are not the same. The lesson is simple. Happiness is not about having a perfect life. It is about having the right perspective. If you train your mind to look for growth, wisdom, and peace, you will find them everywhere. If you train your mind to focus only on what is wrong, you will always find something to be unhappy about. So, take a deep breath and ask yourself, how do I see the world? Am I making my struggles heavier by focusing only on the negatives? Can I shift my perspective and find something meaningful even in the hardest moments? Life is like a mirror. If you frown at it, it will frown back. If you smile at it, it will reflect that smile. You have the power to decide how you see life. And when you change your perspective, you change your entire world. The power of letting go, free yourself from unnecessary burdens. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that weighs heavily on people's hearts: attachment. So many people suffer not because of what happens to them, but because they refuse to let go. They hold on to grudges, cling to expectations, and carry pain from the past, making their journey through life heavier than it needs to be. But what if I told you that freedom is not found in holding on, but in letting go? Imagine walking through life with a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents something you refuse to release: a past mistake, an old resentment, a painful memory, an expectation that was never fulfilled. With every step, the weight slows you down. Yet, instead of dropping the bag, you tighten your grip, believing that carrying it makes you stronger. But does it? Or does it simply exhaust you? Letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean that what happened was unimportant. It means choosing peace over suffering. It means understanding that holding on to pain does not change the past, but it does ruin the present. A traveler once came to a Zen master and said, "Master, my heart is heavy. I have been wronged many times. I cannot forget, and I cannot forgive." The master smiled and handed him a cup of tea. As he poured, the tea began to overflow. The traveler quickly pulled back his hand. "Master, stop. The cup is already full." The master placed the teapot down and said, "Just like this cup, your heart is full of the past. How can you receive anything new if you do not first empty it?" The traveler understood. He had been holding on to so much pain that there was no room for peace. Many people live like this, so full of old wounds, regrets, and disappointments that they cannot truly enjoy life. They replay past mistakes in their minds, keeping their suffering alive. They refuse to forgive, carrying anger that poisons them more than the person they are angry with. They cling to ideas of how things should be, instead of accepting them as they are. But life is like a river. If you try to grab the water, it slips through your fingers. If you try to stop the current, it only pushes harder. The only way to be at peace with the river is to flow with it. Let me tell you another story. A man once carried a boat across a great distance. He had used it to cross a river, and it had been very useful. But even after reaching land, he refused to leave it behind. He dragged it through fields and up mountains, growing weaker with every step. Finally, someone asked him, "Why are you still carrying the boat?" The man replied, "Because it helped me once. I cannot leave it behind." The other person shook his head. "What once served you may now be holding you back. Let it go." Like that man, many people carry things long after they are needed. They hold on to past relationships, fearing to move on. They keep replaying old failures, believing they are forever defined by them. They refuse to let go of pain, mistaking it for strength. But true strength is in knowing when to release what no longer serves you. Think about something you're holding on to right now. Maybe it is an old resentment, a painful memory, or a belief that keeps you stuck. What would happen if you let it go? Would you feel lighter? Would you move forward more easily? A wise person understands that life is constantly changing. Just as trees shed their leaves in autumn, we must learn to release what we no longer need. The past cannot be changed, but the present is still in your hands. You can choose peace instead of suffering. You can choose to free yourself. Many people believe that letting go means losing something. But in truth, it means gaining something far greater: peace, clarity, and the ability to fully embrace life as it is. When you stop holding on to what was, your hands become free to receive what is. So, ask yourself, what am I still carrying? And is it time to finally set it down? Trust the process. Everything unfolds in its own time. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that troubles many people: and patience. In today's world, everyone wants quick results. They want success without struggle, happiness without hardship, and answers without waiting. But life does not work this way. Everything has its own time, and just like a tree does not bear fruit the day it is planted, your journey cannot be rushed. Imagine a farmer who plants a seed. Every day, he digs up the soil to check if it is growing. He becomes frustrated when he sees no change. In his impatience, he gives up, thinking the seed is useless. But had he trusted the process and given it time, the seed would have sprouted into a strong tree. Many people live like this. They give up too soon. They doubt their progress. They expect instant results and grow discouraged when things do not happen as quickly as they wish. But just because you cannot see something growing does not mean it is not happening. Some things take time to develop beneath the surface before they are visible. There was once a man who visited a Zen master and said, "Master, I have been meditating for months, but I see no improvement. My mind is still restless." The master smiled and said, "When you were a child, could you walk perfectly the first time you tried?" The man shook his head. "No, I fell many times." The master nodded. "And did you stop trying?" The man smiled. "No, I kept going until I could walk." The master said, "Then why do you expect instant mastery in meditation? Growth is not always visible, but it is happening. This is true for all things in life. People often say, 'Why is nothing changing?' But just because you do not see change does not mean it is not happening. The caterpillar does not know it will become a butterfly. The stonecutter does not know which strike will break the rock. But they keep going, trusting the process. Everything happens in its own time. A flower does not rush to bloom, yet it blossoms beautifully when the season is right. The sun does not rise before dawn, yet it appears at the perfect moment. The river does not reach the ocean in a single day, yet it flows steadily until it arrives. Many people compare themselves to others and feel discouraged. They see someone succeeding and wonder, "Why am I not there yet?" But they forget that everyone's journey is different. A tree does not look at another tree and wish to grow faster. It simply grows at its own pace. A wise person understands this. They do not rush or force things. They plant their efforts like seeds and trust that, with patience, everything will unfold as it should. So, if you ever feel stuck, remind yourself, the seed is still growing, even when you cannot see it. Trust the process. Your time will come. The strength of adapting, flow like water. Sit with me for a moment, and let us talk about something important, resistance. Many people struggle because they refuse to accept change. They wish for life to stay the same, for things to always go their way, for challenges to never appear. But life does not work like that. Life is like a river, always moving, always shifting, always changing. The more you resist, the harder it becomes. The more you flow with it, the lighter you feel. Imagine a man standing in a river, pushing against the current. No matter how strong he is, the water keeps flowing. The harder he fights, the more exhausted he becomes. But if he simply lets go and allows the river to carry him, he moves effortlessly. The river is not his enemy. It only becomes a struggle when he fights it. Many people live like this man. They resist what is happening in their lives. They refuse to accept loss. They fight against situations they cannot control. They wish things were different instead of working with what is. But resistance only creates suffering. When you refuse to accept life as it is, you carry unnecessary pain. A young man once came to a Zen master, frustrated with his life. "Master," he said, "nothing is going the way I planned. Everything is falling apart." The master poured a cup of tea and said, "When you hold a cup too tightly, your hands grow tired. When you hold it too loosely, it slips from your grasp. The secret is in balance." The young man was confused. "What does this have to do with my problems?" The master smiled. "You are gripping too tightly to how you want life to be, instead of accepting it as it is. When you stop fighting, life becomes lighter. This is the way of nature. Look at the trees during a storm. The ones that bend with the wind survive. The ones that resist, break. A wise person understands that flexibility is strength. It is not the strongest tree that stands the test of time, but the one that knows how to sway with the wind. People often say, "This is not how things should be." But who decides how things should be? Life unfolds in ways we cannot always predict. Clinging to expectations only creates suffering. Letting go allows you to move forward. Think of a river flowing down a mountain. If it encounters a rock, it does not stop or turn back. It simply flows around it, finding a new path. It does not complain that the rock is in its way. It does not resist. It adapts. This is why water is stronger than stone. It is soft, yet nothing can stop it. Life will not always go as planned. People will leave. Circumstances will change. Obstacles will appear. But peace is found not in fighting what happens, but in learning to move with it. Ask yourself, what am I resisting? What am I holding onto too tightly? How can I flow like water, instead of fighting against life? The river does not worry about where it will go. It simply flows. So should you. The wisdom of perspective, see beyond the moment. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that often troubles the heart: perspective. Many people suffer not because of what happens to them, but because of how they see it. A challenge can feel like a curse or a blessing, depending on how you look at it. A delay can feel like a failure or a necessary pause. A loss can feel like an ending or a new beginning. The way you see life shapes the way you experience it. Imagine two men walking through a field. Suddenly, rain begins to fall. The first man curses the sky, angry that his clothes are getting wet. The second man smiles, grateful for the rain that nourishes the earth. The same rain falls on both, yet their experience is completely different. One suffers, while the other finds peace. The difference is not in the rain, it is in their perspective. Many people live like the first man. They see only problems, not possibilities. They complain about difficulties, not realizing there are opportunities to grow. They focus on what they have lost, instead of what they can still create. But what if they changed the way they looked at things? What if, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "What can this teach me?" A young boy once came to a Zen master, crying, "Master," he said, "my father gave me a wooden horse, but it broke. I am so sad." The master smiled gently. "If the horse had never broken, would you have learned that things do not last forever?" The boy wiped his tears. "No, I wouldn't have." The master nodded. "Then the horse has given you two gifts, one while it lasted, and one in its breaking. This is the way of life. Every experience, even the painful ones, carries a lesson. But many people are too focused on their suffering to see it. They only see the surface of events, not the deeper meaning. They resist what happens, instead of seeking to understand it. Think of a mountain climber who faces a steep, difficult path. To someone watching from below, it may seem like he is struggling. But to the climber, every step brings him closer to the top. The challenge is not an obstacle, it is the way forward. Life is the same. What feels difficult now may be preparing you for something greater. What seems like an ending may be a beginning in disguise. What appears to be a loss may be clearing space for something better. But to see this, you must change your perspective. A wise person understands this. They do not judge a moment by how it feels, but by what it can teach. They do not get lost in temporary struggles, because they see the bigger picture. They know that even the darkest night is followed by dawn. If you feel lost, if you feel stuck, if you feel like things are not going your way, pause. Ask yourself, how else can I look at this? What is this teaching me? What new path is opening before me? A bird that loses a branch does not panic, it simply finds another. A river that meets a rock does not stop, it finds a way around. A wise person does the same. They do not resist change. They do not fight what they cannot control. They shift their perspective and find a new way forward. So, ask yourself, am I seeing clearly, or am I trapped in my own limited view? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. The hidden meaning, nothing is ever wasted. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that often troubles the heart, regret. Many people look back at their lives and think, I have wasted so much time. They remember their mistakes and wish they could undo them. They think about the things that did not go as planned and wonder, what was the point of all that? But what if nothing was ever wasted? What if everything that happened, even the mistakes, even the delays, even the failures, was necessary for your journey? Imagine a potter shaping clay on a wheel. He presses it, spins it, reshapes it, sometimes even destroys it and begins again. To someone watching, it may seem like he is wasting time, making and breaking the same thing over and over. But to the potter, every step is important. Every mistake teaches him something. Every change improves the final shape. In the end, a beautiful pot emerges, but only because of everything that came before it. Many people live with the pain of regret. They say, if only I had made a different choice. They wish they could go back and fix the past. But they forget that everything they have been through has shaped who they are today. Even the hardest moments have given them something, a lesson, a new direction, a deeper understanding. A young man once came to a Zen master, filled with sorrow. "Master," he said, "I have made so many mistakes. I feel like I've ruined my life." The master took the young man to a bamboo forest and said, "Look at these trees. Some grow tall and straight, while others bend and twist. Yet all of them belong here. Not one of them is a mistake." The young man looked at the trees and nodded. "Yes, but some of them are broken." The master smiled. "And yet, even the broken branches return to the earth and nourish the soil. Nothing is wasted. Life is like this. We think in terms of success and failure, but the truth is, nothing is ever truly lost. Even the things that seem broken or useless have their purpose. A wrong turn may lead to the right destination. A delay may have saved you from something harmful. A failure may have taught you what you truly needed to learn. Think of an old map with many roads. Some roads lead directly to the destination. Others seem to go in circles. But every road adds to the journey. Every road has its lessons. Many people say, if only I had known better, I would have made a different choice. But the truth is, you made the choices you were capable of at that time. You did the best you could with the knowledge and understanding you had. There is no use in blaming yourself for not knowing something earlier. Growth is a process. You are learning, just as you are learning now. A wise person does not live with regret. They do not look back at their life and wish things were different. They understand that everything has its place. Even the moments that seemed painful, even the choices that seemed wrong, all had a role in shaping them. Look at a tree in the autumn. It loses its leaves, but it does not mourn them. It knows that in time, new leaves will grow. It does not hold on to the past. It simply trusts that everything is happening as it should. If you find yourself looking back with regret, pause. Ask yourself, what did I learn from that experience? How did it shape me? How did it bring me to where I am today? The river does not regret the stones it has passed. The wind does not mourn the leaves it has carried away. Everything moves forward. So should you. Trust the journey. Life is unfolding as it should. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that troubles many hearts: doubt. Many people feel lost because they do not trust their journey. They question every step. They wonder if they are on the right path. They look at others and think, they seem to have it all figured out. Why am I still struggling? But the truth is, no journey is the same. Everyone moves at their own pace. Everyone reaches their destination at the right time. Imagine a seed buried in the soil. In the darkness, it begins to grow, but it does not see the sunlight yet. It may wonder, am I even going the right way? But if it keeps growing, one day it breaks through the ground. It finally sees the light, and it understands every moment in the dark was necessary. Without it, the roots would not have been strong enough to hold the tree when it reached the surface. Many people give up because they do not see results fast enough. They say, I have been working so hard, but nothing is happening. But just because you cannot see growth does not mean it is not happening. Some things take time. Some things are working beneath the surface, in ways you cannot yet understand. A young man once came to a Zen master and said, Master, I feel stuck. No matter what I do, I don't seem to be making progress. The master took him to a bamboo grove and said, Do you know how bamboo grows? For the first few years, it does not seem to grow at all. But beneath the soil, its roots are spreading, getting stronger. Then, one day, it suddenly shoots up, growing several feet in just weeks. It was not failing before, it was preparing. The young man thought for a moment. So, my progress is happening even if I can't see it? The master nodded. Yes. Your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. This is true for all of life. Some chapters may feel slow, but they are necessary. Some moments may feel like setbacks, but they are actually preparing you for what comes next. The mistake many people make is thinking that if something is difficult, it must be wrong. But sometimes, the hardest paths lead to the greatest destinations. Think of a river flowing down a mountain. When it meets a rock, it does not stop and say, I must be on the wrong path. It simply flows around it. It keeps moving. It trusts that as long as it keeps going, it will reach where it is meant to be. Many people compare their journey to others. They see someone who has achieved success and think, why am I not there yet? But they forget, everyone's journey is different. Some people bloom early, some bloom late. The important thing is to keep growing. A flower does not rush to bloom. A tree does not worry about how fast it is growing. Everything in nature trusts its own timing. So should you. If you ever feel lost, if you ever feel like you're not where you are supposed to be, pause. Take a deep breath. Remember, just because you do not see the whole path does not mean you're on the wrong one. Trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The sun does not doubt whether it will rise. The moon does not question whether it should glow. They simply do what they are meant to do. So should you. Keep going. Keep trusting. Your journey is leading you exactly where you need to be. The power of letting go, free yourself from the burden of the past. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that keeps many people trapped, the past. Some carry it like a heavy sack on their shoulders, unable to put it down. They replay old memories, regretting what was said or done. They hold on to pain, unable to forgive themselves or others. But what they do not realize is that the past is already gone. It exists only in the mind. And yet, it has the power to shape their present, to control their future, if they do not learn to let it go. Imagine a man walking through the forest. He finds an old stone, smooth and heavy, and decides to carry it with him. As he walks further, he picks up another stone, then another. Soon, his arms are full, his back is aching, and yet, he refuses to put them down. These stones are part of my journey, he says. But with each step, he grows more tired. This journey becomes harder, not because of the road, but because of what he refuses to let go of. Many people live like this. They carry old hurts, mistakes, and disappointments, refusing to release them. They think, if I hold on to this, I will not forget. I will protect myself from future pain. But in reality, they are only hurting themselves more. They are making their journey heavier than it needs to be. A young monk once came to a Zen master and said, "Master, I cannot stop thinking about something painful from my past. No matter what I do, it follows me." The master poured tea into a cup until it overflowed. The young monk gasped, "Master, stop. The cup is full." The master smiled. "Like this cup, your mind is full of what was. You cannot receive peace unless you first make space for it. To let go is not to forget. It is not to pretend that something never happened. It is to accept that the past cannot be changed, and to choose not to let it control you any longer." Some people hold on to anger, believing it gives them power. They say, "I will never forgive." They do not deserve it. But who suffers more, the one who did wrong, or the one who carries the anger? Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Forgiveness is not about them. It is about setting yourself free. A traveler once came across a great river. He needed to cross, so he built a small raft. It carried him safely to the other side. But instead of leaving the raft behind, he lifted it onto his shoulders and continued walking. The raft, once useful, now became a burden. The past is like this. It may have taught you, shaped you, even protected you. But once it has served its purpose, you must set it down. You must move forward without carrying its weight. Some say, "But how do I let go?" The answer is simple. You let go by deciding to. You let go by no longer feeding the thoughts that hold you back. You let go by bringing your focus to the present, to what is real and true in this moment. Breathe in deeply. Feel the air fill your lungs. Right now, in this moment, the past does not exist. Only this breath, only this heartbeat. Right now, you are free. The waves do not hold onto the shore. The wind does not cling to the trees. The river does not stop flowing. Nature teaches us the truth. Nothing is meant to be held forever. Let go, and allow yourself to be as free as the wind, as light as the river. The journey ahead is waiting. You do not need to carry the weight of yesterday. Set it down, and walk forward with open hands, with an open heart. The hidden blessings, how challenges shape your destiny. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that troubles many hearts' struggles. Many people wish for a life without hardship, without pain, without obstacles. They ask, "Why must I go through this? Why is life so difficult?" But they do not see that hidden within every challenge is a lesson, a blessing, a gift. Imagine a blacksmith at work. He takes raw metal, something rough and unshaped, and he places it into the fire. The flames burn hot, changing the metal, making it soft. Then, with each strike of his hammer, he shapes it into something useful, something strong. Without fire, without force, the metal would remain useless. It is the struggle, the hardship, the pressure that transforms it. Life does the same to you. The difficulties you face, the challenges that test you, they are the fire that shapes you. Without them, you would not grow. Without them, you would not become the person you are meant to be. A young man once came to a Zen master, his heart heavy with sorrow. He had lost his job, his savings, his sense of direction. He sat before the master and asked, "Why is this happening to me? I have done nothing wrong, yet life keeps taking things away from me." The master listened quietly, then took him to a garden. There, he pointed to a butterfly struggling to break free from its cocoon. Its wings were weak, its body trembling. The young man watched with concern and asked, "Should I help it?" The master shook his head. "No. If you help, it will never grow strong. The struggle is necessary. It is how the butterfly builds the strength to fly." The young man looked down, understanding dawning in his eyes. Many people do not see this truth. They believe that suffering is punishment, that challenges are unfair. But they do not realize that every hardship is a teacher. Every difficulty is a hidden blessing. The strongest trees grow in the windiest places. The brightest diamonds are formed under the greatest pressure. The most powerful souls are shaped by the toughest battles. If life were easy, if everything were handed to you without effort, you would never know your own strength. You would never discover what you are truly capable of. It is through struggle that you rise. It is through pain that you learn resilience. Think back to a time in your life when you faced a great difficulty. Maybe you lost something or someone. Maybe you felt lost, uncertain, afraid. At that moment, you may have thought, this is the worst thing that could happen. But now, looking back, can you see the wisdom in it? Can you see how it changed you? How it made you wiser, stronger, more compassionate? Sometimes, what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Sometimes, what feels like a failure is actually a lesson. Life does not always give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need. A river does not flow in a straight line. It bends, it curves, it meets obstacles. But each twist, each turn, each rock it flows around is shaping its path. The river does not resist. It does not ask, why is this rock in my way? It simply flows. You must learn to do the same. When you face hardship, instead of asking, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of resisting, learn to adapt. Instead of fearing the fire, allow it to forge you into something greater. There is a story of a farmer who owned a horse. One day, the horse ran away. His neighbors came to console him, saying, what bad luck. But the farmer simply replied, who knows if it is good or bad? A few days later, the horse returned, bringing with it several wild horses. The neighbors came again, saying, what great luck. But the farmer only said, who knows if it is good or bad? Soon after, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, but he fell and broke his leg. The neighbors pitied him again. What terrible luck, they said. But the farmer remained calm. A week later, soldiers came to the village, taking all the young men to war. But because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was left behind. The neighbors finally understood. The things that seem bad at first may turn out to be blessings in disguise. Life works in mysterious ways. You may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but trust that every challenge has its purpose. Every struggle carries a gift. Do not fear the storms, for they clear the sky. Do not fear the darkness, for it makes the light shine brighter. And do not fear the hardships of life, for they are shaping you into the person you are meant to be. Keep going. Keep trusting. One day you will look back and see that every challenge was leading you exactly where you needed to be. Finding peace in the unseen, trusting what you cannot control. Sit with me for a while and let us talk about something that troubles many hearts: control. So many people spend their lives trying to control everything. They try to control how others see them. They try to control their future. They try to control what happens next. And when life does not go according to their plan, they suffer. They feel anxious. They feel frustrated. But what if I told you that peace does not come from control? It comes from trust. Imagine you are holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze your fist tightly, trying to hold on to every grain, the sand slips through your fingers. But if you keep your palm open, the sand rests peacefully in your hand. Life is the same. The more you try to control, the more you lose. The more you let go, the more peace you find. A young man once came to a Zen master and said, "Master, I feel like my life is out of control. No matter how much I plan, things go wrong. How can I make sure everything happens the way I want?" The master picked up a leaf and let it fall into a stream. "Do you see this leaf?" he asked. "It does not fight against the current. It does not try to control where the water takes it. And yet it always moves forward." The young man frowned. "But what if the leaf gets stuck? What if it takes the wrong path?" The master smiled. "There are no wrong paths. Every turn, every stop, every delay is part of the journey. The leaf does not need to control where it is going. It simply trusts that the river will carry it where it needs to be. Life is like that river. It flows whether we try to control it or not. There will be moments when things do not go as planned. There will be moments when we feel lost. But just because we cannot see the whole path does not mean we are not on the right one. Many people struggle because they do not trust the unseen. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want to know exactly what will happen next. But life does not work that way. The seed in the ground does not know when it will bloom. The wave in the ocean does not know where it will crash. Yet, they both trust in the natural flow of life. A farmer does not dig up his crops every day to check if they are growing. He waters them. He cares for them. And then he trusts that nature will do its work. He does not control the sun. He does not control the rain. But he knows that if he does his part, the harvest will come in time. This is how life works. We do our best, and then we trust. We take action, but we do not try to control every outcome. We understand that some things are beyond us. We understand that there is wisdom in the unseen, in the unknown. Many people suffer because they hold on to expectations. They say, "This must happen in this way at this time." And when life takes a different path, they feel disappointed. But expectations are like cages. They keep us trapped. Freedom comes when we let go of how we think things should be and embrace how they are. A man once lost his job and felt devastated. He thought, "This is the worst thing that could have happened to me." But a few months later, he found a new job, one that brought him more happiness, more peace, and more fulfillment than he ever imagined. Looking back, he realized that losing his old job was not a disaster. It was a blessing in disguise. This is the truth of life. Sometimes, what feels like a loss is actually making space for something greater. Sometimes, what feels like a setback is actually leading us to where we are meant to be. But we can only see this when we stop resisting, when we stop trying to control, when we learn to trust. The ocean does not fight against the waves. The wind does not argue with the sky. They simply move with the flow of life. So why do we, as humans, try so hard to control what is beyond us? Why do we resist what is already happening? Peace is not found in trying to control everything. Peace is found in surrender. Not in giving up, but in letting go of the need to force things. In understanding that life has its own rhythm, its own wisdom, its own way of unfolding. If a storm comes, a bird does not try to stop the wind. It finds shelter. It waits. It trusts that the storm will pass. And it always does. Nothing lasts forever. Not the good, not the bad. Everything moves. Everything changes. And when we trust this, we find peace. So, my friend, if you ever feel like life is not going the way you want, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control? And then, let it go. Trust that even if you cannot see the whole picture now, everything is unfolding as it should. A leaf does not need to control the river. It simply allows itself to be carried. A wave does not need to control the ocean. It simply rises and falls. And you, too, do not need to control everything. You simply need to trust. Every ending is a new beginning, embracing change with courage. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that many fear: endings. People resist them, avoid them, and even deny them. They hold on to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves them. They fear that if something ends, they will be left with nothing. But life is not like that. Every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning. Imagine a tree in autumn. Its leaves turn golden, then brown, and then they fall. If you did not understand the seasons, you might think the tree is dying. You might think it will never bloom again. But the tree knows better. It lets go, without fear, because it trusts that spring will come again. It knows that only by shedding the old can it make way for the new. A young monk once came to his master, his eyes filled with sadness. "Master," he said, "why must things end? I have lost friendships, I have seen good times fade, and every time something ends, I feel lost." The master picked up a clay cup and held it up to the sunlight. "This cup," he said, "is already broken." The young monk frowned. "But master, it is whole. It is not broken." The master smiled. "Yes, but one day it will fall. One day it will crack. And when that happens, I will not grieve, because I have already accepted that everything changes. When I drink from this cup, I enjoy it fully, knowing that it will not last forever." The young monk thought for a moment. "So, you are saying I should not be sad when things end?" The master shook his head. "No. Feel sadness if it comes. But do not cling. Do not resist. For the very end you fear may be the doorway to something greater. How many times in life have you resisted change, only to realize later that it led you to something better? A lost job that led to a new opportunity. A broken relationship that made way for a deeper love. A failure that pushed you toward a new path. People often mourn the past, saying, if only things had stayed the same. But what if things were never meant to stay the same? What if life, like the river, is always meant to flow forward? A butterfly does not cling to its cocoon. If it did, it would never fly. A river does not try to flow backward. If it did, it would never reach the ocean. So why do people hold on to what must go? Why do they fear endings, when endings are simply the first step towards something new? There was once a traveler who came to the banks of a great river. He needed to cross, but there was no bridge. So he built a small raft and paddled across. When he reached the other side, he picked up the raft and began carrying it on his back. A wise man saw this and laughed. "Why are you carrying the raft?" he asked. The traveler frowned. "It helped me once. It brought me across the river." The wise man shook his head. "Yes, but now you no longer need it. If you keep carrying it, it will only weigh you down." The traveler understood. He set the raft down and walked away free. How many people carry the weight of their past simply because it once helped them? How many hold on to things that no longer serve them? Endings are not punishments. They are invitations. invitations to grow, to evolve, to move forward. But only those who let go can step through the door of the new. A person who refuses to leave the shore will never explore the ocean. A bird that stays in its nest will never know the freedom of the sky. Life is always offering new beginnings. But to embrace them, one must first release the old. So, if you find yourself at an ending, do not despair. Do not fight it. Instead, take a deep breath. Trust. Even if you cannot yet see what comes next, know that something beautiful is waiting on the other side. Because in life, nothing truly ends. It only transforms. Every ending is simply a new beginning in disguise. Trust the journey. Life is unfolding as it should. Sit with me for a while, and let us talk about something that troubles many hearts: doubt. Many people feel lost because they do not trust their journey. They question every step. They wonder if they are on the right path. They look at others and think, they seem to have it all figured out. Why am I still struggling? But the truth is, no journey is the same. Everyone moves at their own pace. Everyone reaches their destination at the right time. Imagine a seed buried in the soil. In the darkness, it begins to grow, but it does not see the sunlight yet. It may wonder, am I even going the right way? But if it keeps growing, one day it breaks through the ground. It finally sees the light, and it understands every moment in the dark was necessary. Without it, the roots would not have been strong enough to hold the tree when it reached the surface. Many people give up because they do not see results fast enough. They say, I have been working so hard, but nothing is happening. But just because you cannot see growth does not mean it is not happening. Some things take time. Some things are working beneath the surface, in ways you cannot yet understand. A young man once came to a Zen master and said, Master, I feel stuck. No matter what I do, I don't seem to be making progress. The master took him to a bamboo grove and said, Do you know how bamboo grows? For the first few years, it does not seem to grow at all. But beneath the soil, its roots are spreading, getting stronger. Then, one day, it suddenly shoots up, growing several feet in just weeks. It was not failing before, it was preparing. The young man thought for a moment. So, my progress is happening even if I can't see it? The master nodded. Yes. Your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. This is true for all of life. Some chapters may feel slow, but they are necessary. Some moments may feel like setbacks, but they are actually preparing you for what comes next. The mistake many people make is thinking that if something is difficult, it must be wrong. But sometimes, the hardest paths lead to the greatest destinations. Think of a river flowing down a mountain. When it meets a rock, it does not stop and say, I must be on the wrong path. It simply flows around it. It keeps moving. It trusts that as long as it keeps going, it will reach where it is meant to be. Many people compare their journey to others. They see someone who has achieved success and think, why am I not there yet? But they forget, everyone's journey is different. Some people bloom early, some bloom late. The important thing is to keep growing. A flower does not rush to bloom. A tree does not worry about how fast it is growing. Everything in nature trusts its own timing. So should you. If you ever feel lost, if you ever feel like you're not where you are supposed to be, pause. Take a deep breath. Remember, just because you do not see the whole path does not mean you're on the wrong one. Trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The sun does not doubt whether it will rise. The moon does not question whether it should glow. They simply do what they are meant to do. So should you. Keep going. Keep trusting. Your journey is leading you exactly where you need to be. The circle of life, everything connects in the end. Sit with me for a while and let us talk about the great mystery of life. Many people search for meaning, wondering why things happen the way they do. They try to make sense of their pain, their struggles, their joys. But life is like a great river. It flows whether we understand it or not. It moves, carrying us with it, teaching us, shaping us. Imagine standing on a mountaintop, looking down at the winding paths below. Some roads twist and turn. Some lead into forests. Some go straight for a while before bending unexpectedly. If you were walking on one of these roads, you might feel lost. You might wonder, am I going the right way? But from the top of the mountain, you can see that every path leads somewhere. Every turn has its purpose. Life is like this. We may not always understand it in the moment, but in time, everything connects. A man once came to a Zen master and said, Master, I have been through so much suffering. I have faced losses, disappointments, and failures. I do not understand why life has been so hard. The master picked up a cup of tea and poured it into a bowl. Tell me, he said, does each drop of tea know where it is going? The man shook his head. No, master. The master smiled. Yet, In the end, every drop becomes part of something greater. Life is like this. Every experience, every challenge, every joy is a single drop in the vast bowl of our existence. Alone, each moment may not make sense, but together, they create a complete picture. Many people spend their lives chasing answers. They ask, why did this happen to me? But the wise person understands that not everything needs an answer right away. Some truths reveal themselves only with time. Some lessons can only be understood after we have lived them. Think of an artist painting on a canvas. Up close, the brushstrokes may seem random, even chaotic. But step back, and you see a masterpiece taking shape. Life is like that. Every experience, even the painful ones, is part of the painting. Nothing is wasted. Some people fear change. They cling to the past, afraid of what the future may bring. But life is always changing, always moving. Just as the seasons turn, just as the tides rise and fall, everything in life follows a rhythm. If we resist change, we only create suffering. But if we embrace it, we flow with the river instead of fighting against it. A tree does not resist the wind. It bends. A bird does not question where the wind carries it. It trusts. So should we. Now, as we come to the end of this journey, I ask you, can you trust that everything is happening as it should? Can you let go of the need to control and simply flow with life? Can you see that every joy and every hardship has shaped you into the person you are today? There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of people subscribe. So please, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And most importantly, drop down your thoughts in the comments. The journey never truly ends. Life continues, always unfolding, always teaching. The river keeps flowing, and so do you.